Welcome to Conversations with Deborah, a bi-coastal dialogue with my good friend, Deborah Manning. Welcome, Deborah. Wait,
Hi, Malcolm.
Heard exclusively on malcolmpresents.com. We have to tell them where to go.
That's right. We can't forget that, for heaven's sakes.
No,
I'm privileged to be.
because this is our network, malcolmpresents.com.
Right.
By the way, and if anybody knows anything about social media, social marketing, please contact us. Also, if anybody knows about the Zoom, please contact us.
We're wading our way through.
Yeah, no, I mean, good. I know how to put together shows, and of course, I know how to talk, and yes. I know politics and other and sundry things in my many years of existence. But the computer and what's happening, technology, I'm at a loss, and I'll be the first to admit.
The one thing I have to say to a lot of folks that are about our age, just take it slowly, take it one step at a time. It's funny because our next door neighbor, I'm Deborah Manning. I'm a native Californian, used to be a news reporter for National Public Radio, for PBS, for Channel 13, Chris Kraft, what have you, walked away from the job. I'll explain that later, but moved to South Carolina 5.5 years ago from California. I'm a native Californian and moved here with my dear husband and a couple of cats. We now have, at this point, I'm sorry to say, 6 cats, and here's one of them back over here. Gracie, what are you doing back over there? She's having a good time in the boxes. So,
well, in the old days, I would say you're the man of the cat house.
Well, it's true. It's true.
And that can be taken many ways, but we shan't go into it because it's a PG show.
That's true. Absolutely. Well, we're a little bit late. I normally speak to you about 2 hours before this, but I'll have to explain. We decided to go up.
Explain, Gracie, explain.
Yeah, I will. What we decided to go ahead and do, because of COVID and because of the Delta variant, we've been very, very careful, and we're in that vulnerable group, unfortunately. And we've been very, very careful. However, we were starting to really, really get cabin fever. And after watching this week with Afghanistan and with Hurricane Ida and all of that, we just needed to be able to get out. So we decided to go up north, and we're about 22 miles from the North Carolina border. And up in North Carolina, they have the most divine, and I must say divine, apple orchards in the world. They also have great peaches here, but the this is now apple season. So we went up to Hendersonville. They have their annual apple festival. It's a 3-day festival. And I have got to tell you, I love California. Keep in mind, I am a native Californian, but I have really rarely tasted better fruits and vegetables from these local farms than any time ever. The apples were just extraordinary. And apparently the Honey Crisp we had some Gala apples. And it's funny because I said to the lady who was selling, because there were probably 50 different farms that were selling all of their wares. And I asked one of the ladies, and she said, it's so simple. The stuff that you're getting from the supermarket have been in storage, cold storage, if they know what they're doing, for several months. And she picked up one of these Gala apples and said, now taste this. And I said, okay. And I did. And I said, oh, it's amazing. She says, this was literally picked off the tree today. And you know that. I mean, I know I'm a city girl and all of that, but it's just remarkable. So we had the best time ever.
And you forgot all about the show.
Well, yes, I did. And what was even more funny is that, of course, masks are not mandatory here, nor are they in North Carolina where we were. But my husband, Michael Fisher, known as Fish, he's an artist, had to put together a COVID mask with a phony cigarette in it. So he's walking around with his mask on, with a cigarette on like this, and it just tore apart everybody. We had the best time. We met more people, and we got another dozen orders for this stupid mask.
Yeah, Roberta, actually, you mentioned that. I don't know if you ever showed it to me.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll see if I can get him to come on in, It's just,
Well, no, the next time we come on, let him come in and show
okay.
off his mask, and maybe we could market it.
Well, it is an absolute scream. And our first client happened to be, of all people, a doctor. It was our skin doctor, and he, of course, we were in the midst of COVID, obviously, and we were wearing masks, and Fish came in with his mask on, and the doctor immediately just burst out, said, "I gotta have one. Are you selling them?" And Fish looks over at me and says, and I said, "Of course we're selling
Yeah,
them.
we
They
are now.
Yes, we're selling them for $25 and plus shipping and handling." And he says, "Fine, no problem." So he laid out a couple of bills and said, "Okay, I'm going to get this for my father, who is actually a smoker." So,
Now tell me, are your masks, how are they built? I mean, is it double layers? Is it?
no, it's a regular COVID mask. And what he does is he's from theater. I, of course, have a theater background as well. And what he did was he literally puts a hole into the mask, but then what he does is he backs it up with a food safe little plastic thing. And then he puts a straw in it. So literally, there's nothing that can get through, because when we put the phony baloney cigarette in there,
Yeah.
nothing is getting through. I mean,
No, but I mean, it's a mask itself. Is it layered or is it aluminum?
yeah, I mean, it's a regular COVID mask. That's all he's done. And he's then sealed it with this food safe,
cigarette.
plastic thing, whatever he calls it. And then to make sure the cigarette stays exactly where it needs to be, because it looks like a cigarette, he's attached a straw to it. So he puts a straw in his mouth. It looks like he's smoking a cigarette. I gotta tell you. Well, anyway,
Actually, you should have one that could actually do a cigarette, and people could actually smoke while they had the mask on.
Yeah,
That
probably
would probably go
could.
big also.
Yeah, you probably could.
And these are
But my husband basically said, he said, "I don't want COVID to interfere with my ability to get cancer." And I said, "That's
Right.
not very funny, Fish." And he goes, "I don't really care." He says, "This thing is a whole farce anyway." He said, "We're going to continue to wear the mask, and so I'm going to have some fun with it." So
did this Fish smoke?
No, he did when he was a youngster.
Okay,
I
so did I.
smoked when I was a youngster too, and then I got smart about it and said, "Oh, you must be joking. This is crazy." So, but I'm still in my holiday fare, my running around. I'm not all dressed up particularly. So,
Well, it reminds me of there's it's called the Orcut Ranch, and it's in Woodland Hills. It's in Woodland Hills. And every year, I forget now, I think it was the weekend after Memorial Day or the weekend after July 4th. They open up their orchard, and you can go pick, and I think I forgot what it was, like you can get a box full of apples, pick it right off. You got to pick it, apples or grapefruits, and you paid like $4 or $5 a box. So when my kids were younger, we used to go there. They used to climb up the trees, and Anna used to climb up trees. Thinking she was back in El Salvador. And I was down there catching the apples, putting it in the box. And it was fun. And then we came home and we had apples for the next 3 weeks.
There you go.
We gave it to our friends, relatives.
Yep. Well, we're just getting through with the peach season, and once again, I've learned how to go ahead and can peaches and do peach compote and freeze peaches and all of that. And I mean, it's just the bounty of fruits and vegetables here, just remarkable. Oh, who you just saw, this is Miss Gracie. Grace, how are you? How are you, sweetie pie? You want to say hello to everybody? This is Miss Grace. This is Miss Grace. She is
could we get a meow?
Meow. No, she's a little camera shy. Oh, okay, sweetie pie. There you go, baby.
But I see you're not camera shy. That's good.
She's a good girl. Anyway, well, we were 4 days away from the Afghan withdrawal.
Right. And what are your thoughts about that?
Listen, I'm an independent voter, regardless of how everybody hears what I say and what have you. I'm an independent voter. And I was very upset with the final speech that took place by President Biden that took place the day after the withdrawal. And I was most upset because we've come through a lot as an American people. We've come through COVID. We've come through all kinds of craziness with riots in our cities and the weather with Ida, all of that, and what have you. Of course, Ida had
January 6th.
Yeah, all the craziness had taken place. I guess what I was the most disappointed in, I wanted a president to be of comfort and to be explaining what was going on, to talk to me as a person. And I guess what struck me about it was I was being yelled at. Why? I felt I was being yelled at. And I don't understand. He campaigned as a moderate. He campaigned saying that he would unite all of us. And I've yet to see that. And I'm very, very concerned when he said we are going to get all of the Americans out. And we didn't. And he said, well, we got 90% of the Americans out. We left people behind. Not only that, but when you allow the Taliban to have the checkpoints, as we did, of course they stopped Americans. Of course they stopped Afghan partners of ours. And who did they let through? Well, they're now finding out in the various places where all of the refugees are going from Afghanistan that quite a number of them have no identification. Quite a number of them, in fact, they're finding are on terrorist lists. And I don't think this is amusing. This is not funny. My biggest concern, of course, as well was I did not realize, but that the conversation that our president had in July with President Ghani of Afghanistan was essentially Ghani was pleading to have air support. And President Biden said, you need to change the perception that the Taliban are in control. You need to be in control. You have all of the American equipment. You've got dozens and thousands of Afghani soldiers that we've taken time to be able to train. But Ghani was asking desperately for air support. He never got it. He never got it. And that was a key to being able to keep the government together. But not only that, but do you realize that the vice president, the duly elected vice president of Afghanistan, is in the Northern Valley? I can't remember the name of the valley, but he's up there. And we never recognized that particular individual. And you realize now the Taliban, the day after we left, had mock funerals for the United States, coffins covered with American flags, French flags, British flags. And yet the State Department, Antony Blinken, is talking about using the Taliban as partners. I'm scratching my head here, Malcolm. What the hell is going on?
The reason that we are trying to get them as partners, to me, the Taliban was inevitably taking over, because the Afghan government could not support itself without American aid. They were gone. I mean,
they needed air support, which is something.
They needed more
but
than
that's something that we give to, for example, the troops in South Korea. We give air support to various places.
They needed a lot more than air support. Our miscalculation was supporting, their army, because that was, they were totally inept. For some reason, even the generals were fooled. The generals thought they could hold, and they didn't. Within a day that the Americans said they were leaving, the Afghan army turned in their arms and they left. There wasn't a fighting. There wasn't fierce fighting among them that everybody thought would happen. They gave up, and the president, he left the country. And I don't know how much money he took with him, but we should soon find out. But
But
this whole,
why,
but,
but once again, I still don't understand. We have now fostered a country, an entire country now, that is going to be a hotbed for terrorists. And it makes it far less safe. The Taliban today said that their partners, their chief partners, are China. What in the
yeah,
world are
because
we doing in terms of our intelligence? We don't have any intelligence.
well, I mean, if China wants to be the, what's bad about that? If China wants to help support them,
Well, if you want to support a group of terrorists, okay.
no, well, the Taliban aren't the terrorists. You know,
Oh, Malcolm.
the terrorists are the ISIS-K,
Well, I
and
mean, when the
and
Taliban,
they
the
are
Taliban said, gave a warning to the United States. And they talked about, for example, specifically the women, that they do not want the women to work, that they are to wear a burqa, that any of the freedoms that women had enjoyed, they are not to enjoy
wait,
under Sharia law. And
wait,
okay.
Deborah, we'll talk about the abortion law in Texas later. You know, talking about making women second-class citizens, but the Muslims and Muslims law, Sharia law, is that. So they're not doing anything that they're, you know, weren't expected to do, and that the Afghan government didn't. Well, the Afghan government was a little better, but
They were a lot better. For 20 years, women could actually work.
But most of those countries, those Middle Eastern countries, you know, that's you know, women are second-class citizens.
Well, I have to tell you, where are the people that
Saudi Arabia?
Women, well, Saudi Arabia is making some good advances.
Yeah, women are allowed to
now.
drive if their husband say it's okay.
Well, bottom line is, I mean, this whole situation, it has damaged our credibility. It has damaged our prestige.
Yeah,
And I didn't, hold on, and I did not appreciate the fact that the president came on and literally yelled at the American public. I'm not understanding what is going on.
I saw that. I didn't get him. He was yelling at the American public. How do you feel he was yelling at you?
I felt as though he was extremely belligerent. He was not presidential in any way, shape, or form. He was more of the candidate that we saw of Joe Biden. And I cannot believe that he continues to blame President Trump, goes on and on and on. And the facts do not bear that out.
Well, in this situation, it does bear it out, because he's the one that started. Trump is the one who promised the Taliban that they would leave in exchange for, and that the Taliban would take over in exchange that the Taliban wouldn't attack American troops. And they didn't.
Unless there were conditions, and the Taliban met none of those conditions.
But they didn't attack the American troops. But the question is, I think it's on both parts, on the previous administration and this administration, it was unprepared. Like you say, how come they didn't didn't let the people who were helping us get out? There are people you hear for 3-4 years were trying to get visas to get out, and they couldn't. And because the paperwork was swamped, they were swamped with paperwork, and they couldn't get their visas. I mean, the stories you hear about, you know, they've been working 2, 3 years, 4 years trying to get paperwork well beyond Biden. The thing is, no matter what would happen, it would be messy.
Even the Afghan that saved then Senator Joe Biden and Kerry and the whole group when they crash landed the helicopter. I mean, he's still stuck there. I mean,
yeah,
I'm not getting why you would, you know, at least get this poor guy out. I know you've left, you know, 10% of that, he said. We left 10% of the Americans, after he swore up and down in an ABC interview with George Stephanopoulos that he would leave no American behind. He would leave no Afghani partner behind. And I don't understand the lie.
Well, they're still working. Well, they're still working on it. Whether that comes out, we have to give them time to see if we're getting out. See if they can get out.
Well,
it's still not through. They're still negotiating with them now. The Taliban has promised I mean,
The
that promises me
Taliban has
nothing.
promised to literally, because you could hear the audio, they're going door to door and you're hearing gunshots and you're hearing people being slaughtered.
Well,
I just,
I mean, the problem is no with the Taliban, there's no central control. Whatever the leaders say, the people in the field don't necessarily know.
well, when you have Biden's own administration people, their top people, and I don't approve of this, leaking information saying that they were appalled by the fact that the president left Americans and left Afghan partners, that they were appalled by it. There's something rotten there. I don't approve of the fact that that information was released,
Yeah.
but I do find it quite amazing.
My thing is, yes, I don't agree with what's happening now, but let's see how it plays out before we condemn. My thing is, let's wait and see. There's plenty enough time to blame, but let it's not nature take its course, but let things develop and see what happens. No matter what happens, it would be a bloody thing, and it would be like we left defeated. But then again, Afghanistan has defeated America, has defeated Russia, has defeated Britain, has defeated France. Everybody trying to take over. Why? Because it's not a country. I mean, basically, it's a group of tribes living in the mountains. They said after you left Kabul, which might have had buildings and homes, all that, and the rest of Afghanistan was people living in caves and mud huts with no electricity, no running water.
Kind of like Los Angeles and San Francisco now. So
yeah, we're in New York throw in. But anyway, yeah, to me, let it play out. There was no other way. It would always be a bloody mess if we would leave. It would always be a defeat. It would always be similar to another Vietnam.
I wish that somebody would have done some bloody planning, and they didn't.
On both sides, because there was plenty of planning to be done before the president took over, because we knew this would become inevitable. And if we brought in more troops, he couldn't win either way. Because if he decided to bring in more troops, they're going to say, oh, he promised to bring the troops home, and look what he did. Trump wanted to bring the troops home. So if he brought in more troops to keep the peace of the situation, so the 2,500 would not be killed, the Americans there that were there, they would have to put in another like 6,000 troops. What would you say? He did.
I mean, Biden ended up doing that.
If he increased it.
He had to bring in a full 7,000 troops.
Right.
The other thing that was amazing to me is the fact that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi refused to have the names of the 13 Marines entered into the record. I find that shameful.
Well, then
how in the world would the speaker say you are not to enter the names of these 13 Marines who were slaughtered with the suicide bomber? And why?
Well, I think there were 11 Marines and one airman, and but that
you're right, 13 individuals.
But that I hadn't heard, and I don't know why. I would have to look into that, because if that were the case, would you feel confident to perhaps call your speaker and say, as a Democrat, I would call my speaker not as a Democrat, as an American.
Absolutely.
And say, well, first of all, I think there should be a limitation on how long people could be in the House.
Well, let's get back to the naming of the 13.
I don't know why. I would have to find out. I hadn't heard that. Yeah, but that seems.
Well, it was interesting. It was interesting going up to the Hendersonville, the Apple Festival, as I say. And North Carolina has many more Democrats than does South Carolina. And I got a chance to talk with a number of Biden voters. And those Biden voters are not happy. They are not happy. They are having buyer's regret. We're now down to a 43% approval rate for this president. And I have to tell you, and this is an unscientific poll of the dozen, about 18 people that I got a chance to talk to at the festival, all Biden voters. They expressed very much the same feelings that I have expressed right now. Disappointment and worry that this president may be unable to carry out the necessities of the presidency. Their biggest concern at this point right now is Vice President Harris, who they really say is not prepared to take over any jobs whatsoever. Insofar as her performance at the border, her performance on so many different areas has been negligent and has been non-existent. So there's a coming reckoning here. I know as an independent voter, I don't know. I think the Democrats have really lost me, and they're starting to lose a number of hardcore Democratic voters, and I find that very concerning because, once again, the reason that you and I talk is because it's important to bring issues out and to get both sides aired and to get it heard, rather than doing, condemning people because they voted a certain way. But it's important to get the issues on out. So what I'm hearing from you is that you were very concerned about the lack of planning by the Biden administration. That you were
I'm concerned about the lack of
Americans.
planning between the Biden administration, and there's an infrastructure within in the U.S. It's
Mhm.
not only the president, but the military. The military has been constant. They've been there. They're the ones that should have had the planning done.
Mhm.
The State Department should have had the planning done on both
So
sides,
should
both on
someone,
the Trump
so should
administration
people,
and the
so
Biden
should,
administration.
so should people lose their jobs because they're incompetent?
I think they should, and I think they should. With the next election, I think get rid of everybody. Not only don't make it the Republican or Democrat. I think you as an independent should be running.
Well,
You don't owe your loyalty.
No.
The thing is, they say, "Oh yeah, I'm a Republican, so therefore I listen to the head of the Republican Party." That's bull.
that is bull.
They should be independent thinkers, and they shouldn't be, "Oh, I'm going to vote what the people say," because the people aren't elected. The people elected them to run the government.
That's right.
If I could run the government, I would do it. Most of the people are incapable of running the government. That's why they elect people, so they can't.
But you know what? You should think very seriously about going on a school board or going on, because I'm looking very much into going into various commissions, whether it be a library commission, whether it be a parks commission. I could see you on a school board. And I think it's important to have ordinary people on these boards and not these political appointees that seem to have. And it's funny because I've been invited to, join the Republican Party and join this and join that. And I'm very suspect of that. I think that what needs to be done is that common sense, ordinary people need to become far more involved in the governance of their world.
Right.
And
Actually, they should become more representatives, except it costs so much damn money to be elected.
well,
It's not where, oh gee, I'm going to run for office. You know how much money it costs for anything? I have friends of mine that ran for the city council here in Los Angeles and in New York. And the whole thing, they had to spend most of their time is raising money. And I know we've talked about this before, to become a member of the House, to become a congressman.
Yeah.
And it's only a 2-year, they're only elected for 2 years. By the time they're elected, they have to start campaigning to raise money.
Yeah.
And where do they raise money? From the people who want to influence them. So they're not independent voters.
But I think that we as individuals can, on a smaller level, for example, I'm going to be probably getting in on the library commission and probably looking to get into the planning commission. I think it's important to have individuals like ourselves taking far more control and far more interest in these local matters.
I agree with you, but ergo, I feel that we could do better if we get a show like this. And we could get people listening to us. What I want to do is, I don't want to tell people what to think. I want them to think for themselves.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what education is about.
Absolutely.
You present the facts as you see it. I mean, your facts and
Mhm.
my facts might be a little different the way we view it, but
No, no,
let the
no,
person, but
facts,
let the person make
the
up their
values are
mind.
different. It's the facts. The facts are the facts. The values are different. And one of the things that you and I have pledged to one another is we don't bullshit each other.
No.
We don't do bullshit. Okay. It's very simple. Pardon my language. I hope that's not going to flare up the YouTube people. But I think that we need to look at things on a very practical, common sense level. And I think that people like you and me have been remiss. We've been derelict in not participating more in the local running of our cities and our counties. And I think it's high time that we start doing this. We cannot allow some of the nonsensical things to continue to proliferate. It's absurd. I mean, for example, you just saw a couple of weeks ago, I guess it was a couple of months ago, but the story has finally been revealed. There was a guy that claimed that he was a woman, and he decided to go to this health spa. I think it's called the Wee Spa or something. I'm
Right,
not
yeah.
really quite sure. And he was walking around naked, exposing his private parts to women and girls. And one of the women came to the front desk and said, "Oh, this guy's walking around, he's stark naked, and I'm looking at his junk. I don't want to be looking at his junk. What the hell is going on?" And she was accused of being homophobic. Well, it turns out, guess what? This guy is a registered sex offender. He now he's done this before.
But
So once again, where we have no, listen, what I'm saying
Right.
is we have an individual who's been now accused of being homophobic and against transgender and all of this.
But
The
that's,
exact truth is,
but that's not a transgender. Transgender is a cross-dresser, not a transgender. Transgender is somebody who physically changed.
I know.
I
So
mean, I've seen transgenders, and a lot of them who went through the operation and everything looked like a woman. I couldn't tell the difference.
right.
But this reminds me of a story, not a story, but there was a comedian, Paul Rodriguez. I don't know if you
Yes.
remember him.
Yes, of
But
course.
he had the line, and he was a New Yorican. Was
Yes.
big, I think, in the 70s and 80s. I forget his son's name, but he's an actor also. But Rodriguez used to have the skit that he said that women always complain when they would walk past the construction workers, and the construction workers say, haha, and they would always, ogle the woman and do, lewd type of comments. And he said, all the woman would have to do is go up to the guy and say, okay, take it out. Let me see what you have. And the guy goes,
Thank
no,
you.
no, not me, not me.
Thank you.
That would
Thank
be
you.
all the people in the gym would have to go look at the guy, point to his penis and say, is that all you got? No wonder why you want to be a woman.
Yeah, no wonder you want to be a lady.
Anyway, believe it or not, we've reached a half hour.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Yeah,
My
we
goodness
didn't even
gracious.
talk about Texas, and that's what I wanted to talk about.
No, no, we'll talk about Texas because it is developing. And the one thing I have to say, one of the reasons that we moved out of South Carolina is because the state of California was just becoming, for us, too expensive and inhospitable. We moved to South Carolina to be more in line so we could actually afford things. So once again, I'm very grateful for the way the Constitution is set up, so that you have the federal government and then you have the individual states that make decisions based very much on the way the people in those states that are living there in the states want to have the law. So, I mean,
Yeah, but according to that, if you want to do that, then we would still have slavery.
no.
The South did not want to give up slavery.
I understand that.
They wanted to separate and become another country.
I understand that. And unfortunately, our current president very much enjoyed. In fact, he just called one of his black FEMA people boy, which just astonishes me. And I don't I don't understand. I don't, and the Democrats were the ones that were supporting slavery, unfortunately. But of course, that's ancient history.
But
You need
with
to
the
go on
Democrats,
from here.
you know, yeah, they used to have the Dixiecrats in the South, of course. But you're talking about which I love. People say, "Oh, let's do what the founding fathers want, the way they interpret the Constitution." Right? Okay, then you wouldn't be able to vote. Blacks wouldn't be able to vote if you didn't own any land. You would be unable to vote if you weren't educated. Wouldn't be able to vote. Maybe that would be good, and then maybe I could be part of another country. I moved to Canada. Anyway,
No, you wouldn't. I want you to stay here. You're an American. You're going to stay an American, Malcolm.
and
And we may have differences.
what I want to do is have this show reach many people and them
Yes.
to start thinking. They either to say, you know, Malcolm, he's an idiot, or Deborah's right, or opposite. Deborah's an idiot, Malcolm is right. But to start people to think instead of just listening to their politician.
That's right. What's interesting is that I have been talking up the show, and I want to, I want to say hello to Allison. I know that she wants to go ahead and see the show. I have a couple of other folks that have said I want to come in and take a look and see what the show is all about. And I said, I don't want you to think that it's going to be like, cats and dogs fighting with one another. That's not the idea.
Yeah.
The idea is to take issues and ideas and have ordinary people like the two of us that are concerned about the way America is operating, and have a discussion.
It's America in the world. What I want to say, I also do another show called The Many Shades of Green, which we talk about ecology. I'm not so much,
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I'm worried about America, but I'm more worried about that the world is destroying itself. And that what we could talk also with the hurricanes coming in, the ferocity of the hurricanes, the tornadoes that are hitting us that never hit before, the forests burning in California, the floods that we're having all over the world. It's a climate change which we're not taking serious. Now, whether we cannot do it alone, but we have to be leaders of it. And that is really more of my concern, because now you're not talking about 50, 60 years, you're talking about maybe another 20 years. And before you blink your eye, 20 years go. I don't know about you, but the other day I came to the realization, it's September 1st. Oh my God, more than half of the year is gone. We're almost in 2022. With that note,
all right,
we'll see you next week. Oh, by the way, for our non-Jewish people, which I'm sure there are a lot of, Monday night is the beginning of the Jewish New Year.
Rosh Hashanah.
It's Rosh Hashanah, and that goes through. This is where, if you believe in Judaism, the God in the Old Testament, this is where God writes thing in the book for the new year. And Yom Kippur, which is on I think the 15th, this is where he closed the book. So it's our day from from Monday night, and all Jewish holidays start on the eve. It's called Erev. So it's Monday night through, we celebrate like 2 days. Monday, so it's Tuesday and Wednesday, and Rosh Hashanah is over Wednesday night. And then there are other holidays, which I don't even know, culminating on Yom Kippur, where that's our day of penance, and that's our day of asking forgiveness.
And these traditions and these
fast.
holidays, these traditions and these holidays are so vitally important, whether you are Jewish, whether you're Christian, whether you're Muslim. These are traditions, and these are important traditions. So happy Rosh Hashanah, my dear.
Thank you. And as they say, Lashana Tova, which is Hebrew for Happy New Year.
Very nice.
I'll speak to you next year.
Very good. Bye-bye.